And so there's more and more guidance from the government, which means that things will get better, will get looser, or?
I mean, are we ever going to be able to ship to Utah? No. So we have to be realistic. But is it becoming more, I guess, efficient? Yes. Is it becoming more reasonable? Yes. And so what's happening also with groups like FedEx and UPS, you know, those companies also investing and really getting into the game. You know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, not so much. And so you'd have, you know, beautiful cases of wine delivered and sitting in a hot, you know, porch or driveway because there wasn't, you know, the technology and the temperature controlled trucks working to make sure that wine got delivered efficiently to somebody 21 and over who could sign for it. Or rerouting services that we're seeing now through the mobile apps and so forth. If somebody can't be at home to sign for it, having that wine rerouted to maybe their work address and so forth.
So correct me if I'm wrong, with the CRM, customer relationship management, in, you know, a few years ago for a winery, that meant distributors, you know, liquor wholesalers, people like that, those were their customers. And there were probably only a few. And now, with going to direct to consumer, all of a sudden you have thousands of people. So how did that change? And, you know, what did you see happen with wineries when they had to make that change?
Sure. And it's really still happening. I'll be quite frank that there was resistance to having to use these back-end systems like CRM. And it's still happening depending on the size of winery, the location of the winery, who the stakeholders are. But where it's really changed, I think, is the bottom line. And so we saw a 15.5% increase in direct consumer wine sales, shipped wine in 2014. And so now the stakeholders are realizing that it's no longer nice to have CRM, it's no longer nice to have these tools to improve the customer relationship, but it's necessary from a retention perspective as well. There's over 7,000 bonded tasting rooms now in the United States, and thanks to Jeff Bezos and Amazon and Zappos and all of these wonderful e-commerce companies who paved the way for wineries, now we can see that competition has entered into the space like it has never before. While it's the best time in history to sell wine direct to consumer, it's also the most competitive. So I would say in the last year and a half to 2 years, we have seen a huge increase in wineries adopting CRM, not as much as you would think maybe with a full-blown sales force, completely automated and integrated and you know, all the bells and whistles. More simple, using CRM through the e-commerce backends. You know, tying that in with a MailChimp or a vertical response for email marketing. Making sure that you are following really good data input, data cleansing processes, using segmentation to really understand who your customers are, what their preferences are, their lifetime value, and so forth. And so as that's been evolving over the last year and a half to 2 years, then there's a need to train the stakeholders along with the managers about how to get that organized from a technology and process perspective, but to also make sure that the end users understand why those things are happening and how it relates to their bottom line in terms of bonuses and incentives for getting email addresses in the tasting room, collecting clean data from club members and keeping that updated and so forth.
So it seems to me, if you're a winery, just like anybody who has a product, you need to look at what is the goal first, and then figure out how you're going to implement it and get to that point. So if you're a winery, what is the goal once you've connected with your customer?
So that's a great question. I think that it really changes based on the winery's shape and size and their unique offering and brand positioning. But what's really happened due to the connected consumer and due to the increase in social media and e-commerce technology that's now all playing together in that way, the connected consumer is really demanding what they want from the winery experience. Not only from the wines that they're drinking and having shipped to their homes, but also the experiences that they're having when they do visit the winery, whether it's a club member or a first-time visitor. And so they're dictating now that they want sit-down, reservation-style, VIP events, whether it's a small intimate group or large group, willing to invest an hour to an hour and a half on a Saturday. And so what that's doing is it's changing the dynamic for the winery and understanding that they're not only just selling wine, that they're really selling these experiences. And I think when they set out then to build the direct-to-consumer division, they realized that there's an opportunity to work hand in hand with their distributors, to learn about who their customers are throughout the nation, using the data that they have from the direct-to-consumer side of things, which they've never really had access to on the distributor side. And you're really removed from who it is that's really drinking your wine in Chicago versus Florida. And so what we're seeing, I guess, to answer your question in a roundabout way, is that wineries, when they set out in this business model, they're realizing, one, they need to be as competitive as possible, but they have to listen to their customers based on what they want from that unique offering.